we got some fun noise there in the background now. Hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
It's Mary Beth with Titan. Um, Excited to have everybody join us tonight for a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I worked with Dan Kapp and with Patrick Tighe for quite a while in the development of CoverWell, which is a really neat procedure protection plan for the aesthetic space. And we know that as this market has continued to grow and more people are looking at coming into aesthetic medicine, everybody doesn't necessarily get the really good clinical foundation that most of the people that work within the Titan plan do. And that, we have after years of experience in this field and really stay on top of things. So I have asked Patrick Tighe and Kandis Hughes, who are both executives with CoverWell, to join us tonight to talk a little bit about this amazing procedure protection plan, how it can protect your practice, but more importantly, how it is a great opportunity for patients to purchase protection in case adverse events happen with aesthetic treatments. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you all and let you tell us all a little bit about CoverWell and really thinking through the opportunities that we have as the specialty continues to grow to be safe and be protected, no matter what stage of treatment people are in. So Patrick, do you or Kandis want to start?
Yeah, Pat, why don't we start with you?
Okay, great.
Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about you?
Thank you, Mary Beth. I'm Patrick Tighe. This is a picture of myself and my wife. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CoverWell. Myself and Dr. Dan Kapp, who's a board-certified plastic surgeon, created this, and with the help of Mary Beth. Mary Beth was right there at the start, and basically, my wife experienced a medical complication. She had 2 separate procedures, and what we found out was that when you have a complication or an adverse reaction or an adverse event, sometimes when you call a med spa, they don't return your call, and they stop giving you the hospitality that led you to go to their med spa. And what we realized is that we had to find a plastic surgeon. We went to Dr. Dan Kapp because he's highly regarded and was highly recommended to us. And Dr. Kapp was able to mitigate my wife's damages with some laser treatment and some steroid injections. But what became the truth to us was that because we signed the waiver, my wife signed the waiver or the informed consent, we weren't able to use our health insurance to mitigate the damages from that adverse reaction. So Dr. Kapp and myself came up with the idea for CoverWell, and Mary Beth was right there at the start. I'm thinking back on it now that we're with you. You really were right there at the very beginning.
I tell all the Titans, they all know. I never tell anybody what to do. I just ask the questions to help people figure out the path they want to take. And I think your original story of identifying the need, I think a lot of people who are coming to aesthetic practices don't realize that insurance would not cover adverse events. And I think that is something that, when experienced injectors have adverse events, they know how to handle it. But when you look at so many newer injectors and private equity options or people that are entrepreneurs and not necessarily medical providers coming into this space, it really opens up a broader opportunity for unwanted outcomes. And there needs to be something to help protect the patient and the practice that ends up treating that patient. So tell us a little bit more about CoverWell.
Well, let me allow Kandis to introduce herself, though, Mary Beth. That's okay.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
That's not a problem at all. Thank you so much in having us here with you today. I know that you have such an eclectic group of professionals that, coming from my background of business consulting and advisory, industry agnostic across all different spaces, one of the specialties that I have a lot of experience in is healthcare. So whether it be audiology, dental, aesthetics, you name it, IV therapy, peptides, I've touched it. And so when I stepped away from the firm that I had been with for, 12 plus years, it was a big decision for me. However, having met amazing people who are doing good and giving back to small and medium-sized businesses is exactly what Pat, Dr. Kapp, and the entire CoverWell team was able to show me. And reinvigorated the fire in my belly for this is such an exceptional way that we can give back to the industry and a space that I'm very fond of. I'm a patient myself and have been for years. But how can we strengthen the small to medium-sized business presence? Because that's one of my biggest passions in life is giving back, setting people up for success through education and proactive measures that people just don't know what they don't know. And with CoverWell, which we'll talk more about, this is providing a tool and a resource that is really threefold. It's first and foremost protecting the patients in a way that you cannot go and find that anywhere else in the industry or space now. Being backed by professionals who know exactly what they're doing. It's helping the business owners themselves have that safeguarding and protection that they usually fall subject to credits, refunds, etc. And also the teams. So you have an industry in a space that is growing so rapidly. You touched on Mary Beth, private equity, they're investing. You have a lot of mergers and acquisitions. You also have a lot of nurses who were just injectors in a practice that want to go out on their own. So it really is just such a dynamic opportunity to be able to give back and help people for something that I know myself, and I'll let Pat talk about more of his story, that we believe in, and it's a space that we're very excited about. So Pat, I'll pass it up back over to you.
Oh, thank you. That was great, Kandis. Yeah, we really want to, our goal for CoverWell has always been to keep regulations out of the med spa space. We want to elevate the mid-levels or the people that aren't board certified dermatologists or board certified plastic surgeons to have the confidence and safety net that those other professionals have. And what we say at CoverWell is we protect your patients and we protect your business. We're the only protection plan for wellness and lifestyle services not covered by health, general liability, and malpractice insurance. This was the gap that my wife and I fell into in 2012. We didn't realize our health insurance wouldn't pay to fix the adverse reaction that she received from these two different procedures that she had. And we provide our product through med spas, medical clinics, wellness practices, day spas, resort spas, and salons. And we really cover everything. And the simplest way to think about CoverWell is we don't cover manicures and pedicures, and we don't cover anything that requires general anesthesia. But anything, in that space that doesn't require general anesthesia and isn't a manicure or pedicure, we can provide CoverWell protection for. And it really eliminates the adverse or the confrontation or contemptuous relationship. So, what I've known, what I've seen with my wife is it's a very personal decision to go to a med spa, because what happens is it's the one thing that the client looks at all the time. And with my wife, it was her lips. She always felt her lips weren't quite plump enough and they weren't the right color. And she finally decided that she was going to get this permanent lipstick on her lips. And she did her research. She went on the internet and she looked everywhere. She found who we thought was the best provider for this service. Went to that provider, had a very nice experience in the spa. The spa was clean. They did all the best standard operating procedures. The spa didn't do anything wrong. That's the thing about an adverse reaction or an adverse event. This was not the spa's fault. This just happened. And that's why you sign the waiver and the informed consent, because sometimes these things just happen. And when that happened, we fell into the hole because I thought my health insurance would cover fixing what happened to my wife's lips. But because it was an elective aesthetic procedure that my wife signed a waiver for, our health insurance wouldn't cover us for that. And Dr. Cap, knew that, and he charged me money. I had to pay cash. And, he did a great service. And the one thing he said to me back then, and it really rang true with me, is when you fix a complication or an adverse reaction, it's akin to when you were a kid in school and you wrote on a piece of paper with a pencil, a number 2 pencil, a Ticonderoga pencil. When you took the eraser and you erased that paper was never the same. It was just a little different. It wasn't the perfect piece of paper before you wrote on it with that lead. And that's the same thing with an aesthetic procedure. that face is altered 99% of the time for the better and exactly the way the patient wants it. But occasionally these adverse reactions happen. And that's where CoverWell, we want to be there. We want to be the safety net for the client and the med spa. And it's a multifaceted benefit because then the client calls the med spa can say, you have CoverWell, let's get this taken care of. And the med spa can really embrace that client in this time when they're so vulnerable, because you think about the vulnerability my wife had with her lips. It was something that every time she looked in the mirror, she didn't like. She went to get it improved, and then she had an adverse reaction, and she was kicking herself. Why did I do that procedure? My lips weren't that bad. I was just overly focusing on them. And that's the type of shame that we want to take out of the equation. We want the spa to be empathetic. We want to keep that client with the spa. We want to tell that client, you know, the reason you have CoverWell is because this spa believes in you and they want you to be taken care of. And obviously everybody wanted the best procedure, but you had something happen, and that's why we provided CoverWell to you.
Yeah. And obviously, Patrick, when we're talking about things within the Titan area of all of our providers, you know, we are talking medical providers, RNs, NPs, and PAs, and physicians. We are looking at patients within medical practices. And I love the fact that CoverWell can work with day spas and people who do see medical procedures that are perhaps not always in the realm of what we see in the medical space, but that there really is a great protection available. Can you take us through a little bit? And I apologize, I should remember what the next slide is, but a little bit of kind of how this works so that everybody can start kind of imagining how this would be beneficial in their practices.
Sure. Kandis, do you want to advance the slide?
Sometimes this works, sometimes not.
How does that?
Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So we offer a proactive and protective solution to support the infrastructure of the medical clinic and the spa when they need to keep up with the fast-growing aesthetic space. So we're going to really embrace the medical community, and we want to keep the clients close to the practice. We want to accentuate the hospitality that the spas provide to their clients by magnifying reputational appeal for practices and spas in a crowded marketplace. So we're going to make your spa the place that people want to stay, because you're providing the best services, the best practices. And in spite of all that, there's still a possibility that an adverse reaction or an adverse event happens. And when that happens, these medical spas are going to stand behind their clients with the help of CoverWell. And the way it works is that they come in and the spa will do the informed consent, the waiver, all the standard procedures, the best practices to inform the client about, you know, what could possibly happen if something goes wrong. And then they introduce CoverWell to them when they're signing the waiver and say, do you want to purchase CoverWell for a small fraction of the cost of this procedure? You're going to have $125,000 worth of benefits, God forbid something happens. And
obviously, in every medical practice where Titan injectors and Titan business owners would be working, they are medical practices where they have consent forms, they have different information that legally they are required by the FDA to provide to patients, like medical advice that is given for with the box warning of toxins. And this is something that as you are going through those adverse event and consent conversations, that just kind of gets wrapped into. If these are things that make you nervous, here is an opportunity to provide. You know, these are things that it would not be covered by your health insurance, but we do have something called CoverWell that gives you a protection if any of these procedures would have adverse events or events that would be unwanted outcomes. So let's talk about what that does give to the patient if they would choose to purchase CoverWell coverage.
And Pat, do you want me to take this just from a patient perspective?
That'd be great, Kandis.
Okay. So it really, I don't want to use the word starstruck because that'd be incorrect. It's providing a level of elite protection and it's the business, the practice showing genuine care. So if I reflect back on the different types of treatments that I've had over the years and the half a dozen different med spas that I've gone to, the one thing that has always stood out to me is I felt like I was the one interviewing the med spa to figure out what I was receiving or getting. And so I get within the busy hustle and bustle of business because working with thousands of business owners and their operations teams, and especially those that are patient-centric, you are looking to provide an elite, remarkable quality of patient care throughout every treatment you provide, but you have a lot of patients to see. And that's not even looking at all of the different operational components, the things that go right, sometimes the things that are a thorn in our side and go wrong. So with CoverWell, having that, it literally is that peace of mind of knowing when I go in, I could be bringing an adverse reaction that I had that has yet to surface from having gone to a prior location and or entirely unaffiliated med spa, aesthetic clinic, etc. And so having a peace of mind of knowing that normal health insurance does not cover any of these, procedures in which I'm opting into, that automatically creates this extended level of trust because I know I'm not just a transaction. I'm not just another patient coming and sitting in the seat. It's the business owner and the team not just in it for themselves. It's them genuinely wanting to do what's going to provide an environment where I feel confident and comfortable. All of your patients feel this way. So it's an elite concierge service as well, because I can say, and I always like to relate back to my experiences, and I know every med spa clinic is unique in their own. A lot of times it is coming in, you sign the form, you sit in the chair, you get a needle in your face, and then you're on your way. And for some people, they enjoy that. For others, though, they also don't know what they're getting into. I know the first time I ever stepped foot in a med spa or a clinic, and I was going in for just your typical Botox injection, I had no idea what I was signing up for. I didn't know there were different types that I could get. I didn't know the difference between a filler versus Botox. And so to understand that regardless of what happens, most times it won't be anything. But if that does happen to me, because there is odds in anything, there is no guarantee. You can never guarantee a patient that something won't happen. What you can guarantee them, though, is that there is going to be something there for them in the case and or scenario that were to take place. And so it's the financial security and protection, because folks are already making an investment. And so understanding that piece also is one less headache or something they need to worry about, where there is quick support and there's a team out there to help, that also alleviates a lot of the burden off of the practices, injectors, and everyone who is listening to this right now. It truly is a unique force that is there to provide well-being, whereas I feel like we get stuck in this hamster wheel of getting passed off. If something goes wrong, we get passed off to insurance, and then insurance takes forever to get back to you. This is the entirely opposite case. So Pat, what else did I miss in there that maybe you can relate to through your experiences or that you've seen as well?
Well, you really brought something to the top of my attention that we talk about and we think about all the time, but the way the med spa is set up now, or medical clinics are set up, the waiver and the informed consent really only benefits the spa and the injector, right? It provides blanket coverage for them that if something goes wrong, if there's an adverse event or reaction, or complication, a true complication, that professional, that doctor or injector cannot be sued, and they cannot be held responsible for that, which for lack of a better term, accidental thing that happened. It's really a statistical anomaly that most of the time the practitioner didn't do anything wrong. But what we do by adding CoverWell to that waiver is you give equal protection. Now the client has the same protection that the injector has.
The
So the
patient.
waiver and informed consent becomes like a mutual two-way agreement. I thought Mary Beth was going to say something.
No, I just said, we're all on this side of the world very aware that they are patients, not just clients. Once you treat them, they are patients. So they all sign HIPAA forms. So
That's right. And Dr. Cap reminds me all the time, the minute you touch a patient, everything that patient had done to them before you touch them becomes yours.
yep. And that's why I think CoverWell is so important in terms of, what the value is to the business, because it really does give a little bit of protection of that, just in case they went to a practice beforehand, they saw a provider previously, something happened that was maybe set a cascade into effect, that then when they come to your practice, maybe you do an absolutely perfectly safe procedure, but something that was injected before, something that happened before, sets a cascade into effect. And that's why I love the protection that it does provide to the practice, as well as the protection. So how does that work? What happens if something does go wrong, and say somebody had God knows what injected at a previous practice, they come into ABC practice that has CoverWell, and the patient gets injected, everything is perfect, but it sets something into effect that leads to adverse events from the previous injection, and all of a sudden now they come to see the patient in the CoverWell practice.
Right.
This
So we're
is
simple.
what they've signed, right?
Yeah, that's what they signed up for. So this we send this email right away when you purchase the plan, and it's simple, affordable, transparent. It's per procedure model. So if you go in today, October 8th, we're going to provide you coverage for the next 30 days. If a complication or adverse event shows itself in the next 30 days, we have this coverage available. And it's $125,000 worth of benefits. The service provider can add the cost. That's kind of the business end of this. The cost is 5% of a procedure, and then that's tacked on. So let's say you have a Groupon where you get well, you guys don't do Groupon. Titan doesn't do
I
that.
would say you just made my whole entire body go, oh.
Yes, I know. I wish we weren't live.
But if they had gone to a previous practice where there was a Groupon and they got treated.
Exactly. So they come in and they bring themselves with you. And the other thing I wanted to add before when you were talking is most patients aren't the best historians, and not on purpose, sometimes on purpose, but when they do their prior history and their prior medicals, they're not going to know exactly the brand that was injected into them, when it happened, where it was done, or how much they received. And those are very important pieces of information to get. So they bring their medical history with them, even though they can't tell you what it is. And that's what happens. You do an injection, there's something bad there, and then you have a cascading event, right? So now 2.5 weeks later, they're calling your spa upset that they're having burning and black and blue bruising on their face, or it's migrating somewhere in their face. And what you can say is, we're so sorry this is happening to you. When you were in, you purchased CoverWell. They sent you an email the day you were here. Please give them a call, and they're going to immediately respond to this. And then what we do is we get on with the patient, and we'll get on like a Zoom or a FaceTime and try to talk to the patient a little bit, because sometimes it's just about patient education. It may not be actually an adverse event or adverse reaction or complication. It might just be that it's someone who's new to this space, got a procedure, didn't understand how it's going to look the first few days after the procedure happens. And they need to kind of be walked off the ledge. Yeah, it looks bad right now and it hurts right now, but here are the best practices and you're going to come out looking great. Or it's something that maybe rises to a level where we say, you know what, you need to maybe go back to the practice, and we'll call the practice and say they may need some Hyalonase, or they may need some more Botox here if they have a Spock brow, or they have a vascular occlusion or something. We may try to coach the med spa to help them. Obviously, they'd be in a better position than us to determine what's going on. But then if the practice does that, we would reimburse the practice for the cost of fixing that event. So that would be a thing where The practice isn't coming out of pocket. They're not giving a refund. They're not giving a chargeback. The customer becomes very satisfied. And CoverWell did its job to keep the patient with the medical practice, to keep everybody happy and on the same side of the table. Because the biggest thing is communication and embracing that patient in the time of need.
Now, obviously, Patrick, when you say we, the royal we, as an attorney, I'm pretty sure you're not the one that's not answering that phone call. So talk to us about who is answering the phone when somebody calls to report their adverse event and what happens.
Well, we have a 30-year spa professional in Kim Diorsi who can answer the calls and can do the triage. We also have a third-party claims administrator, and they have a team over there that can also do that. And that's 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're available. They're standing by, waiting to take those phone calls.
Love it. Well, and that's what's important, is having somebody who understands what happens. So how does this work in the practice?
Well, in the practice, if a practice was to enroll with CoverWell, what we do is in some practices, we may be already embedded in their software. We're embedded with some EMR practice systems that a lot of practices use. And if we're embedded, we're in with Patient Now, and we're in line to do with some others. I don't want to name them to you because we're not
that's fine.
there, but
So
with
just giving them an
Now,
idea of what. So if you have, and they're signing things online and they're signing within this, CoverWell can be implemented into that. So it's a very seamless process.
Right, exactly. So if you have Patient Now, we're kind of like when you buy a smart TV and there's the apps in the background. You can just click a toggle, and at Patient Now Pro, we are available right now in your practice. And then what happens is, when the person signs the waiver or informed consent at your practice, we immediately issue the policy, and then on checkout, it's added as a line item on the invoice. And then the spa would be hooked up with us through Stripe, and the financial transaction would be seamless because it would all take place through the EMR. And then on top of that, we also have portals set up. So each med spa can go into their portal and they can see the activity that's going on in their spa. And they can see which which patients have purchased CoverWell, and they can see it all there. And we have full transparency, so those medical spa owner or medical director or whomever can access the portal and see what's going on.
Yeah, and that's one thing I did want to also compliment and make clear is, for those of you who are like, well, I don't have Patient Now right now, that's fine. We can work with any spa, regardless of the EMR, EHR in which you are on, which the portal that Pat just beautifully described is a very simple, seamless process. You go in, and it's very similar to the EMR you use now. You're simply just typing in the basic patient information, all of which we need to issue the plan, and everything is right there for you. It's a one-stop shop login. So.
Yeah, we want to make this as frictionless as possible, as seamless as possible. We don't want to change the standard operating procedure of the med spa. We just want to enhance it, give this coverage, but also not change the way the spa operates, because nobody in the spa wants to spend a lot of time talking about CoverWell.
And I'm glad I'm sorry, go ahead, Baron.
No, go ahead.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Path, because I feel as though when people hear about an offering such as this, and having worked with a lot of, whether it be administrative staff in health clinics, working with the actual providers, in this case, injectors and so forth, this is not something that you need to sell. Think of CoverWell as this is a bolt-on. This is all-encompassing of the treatment plans and or recommendations you're already providing. And so sometimes there's a bit of a taboo with, oh, I need to sell another thing, and we're already so busy. I don't want to worry about getting into a long drawn out conversation with the patient. And absolutely use this as leverage and your opportunity to show the patients you're going above and beyond to have that additional level of care that other folks aren't, right? And so it's not, it's seamless. It's an easy pass through, as the theme of which we've been talking about here.
And we provide the medical practices that offer CoverWell with a CoverWell certification for their front door and badges for their website, and any other kind of collateral, as much or as little as they want to have in their lobby and in their treatment rooms.
So it's a great credentialing opportunity for them as well to really help people understand this is a practice that cares about you and your health and has providers that are understanding that they're not perfect. Things can happen, but we want to be prepared when they do.
Right. And on top of that, they can be perfect and it can still happen.
Yep.
It's just a statistical probability or likelihood. I mean, and you've said it, Mary Beth. I've been
Yeah.
at
You
your
came to Learners and
conferences,
Legacies. Yep.
Learners and Legacies. You stand up and you say it. Anybody in here who has had a complication, it's not yet. It's not that it's not going to happen. It's not yet.
It's
And
when.
then when you say everybody in here has had a complication, raise your hand. It's almost the whole auditorium.
Yep.
And that's because they're the best practitioners. They admit what's going on. They don't put their head in the sand and act like these things aren't happening. They face it and address it and fix it right away.
Patrick, they are prepared medically to take care of things. And now this is a way to help patients be prepared economically.
Perfect. Well put. Thank you, Mary Beth. That's great. That's really powerful. I appreciate that. That's just the perfect way to put it.
So what do you got
Kandis?
next for us?
Yeah.
Well, what we do have is it's a little bit more around what does it take to get started. So no monthly fees. Again, this is no cost incurred by the clinic medical practice itself because it's entirely passed through to the patient. And the activation piece is minimal in terms of training and what you all need to learn because we have made it as seamless as possible. So it's as simple as you want to begin offering CoverWell, fantastic. We want you to as well. You can include our tiny bit of terms within your pre-existing consent forms as well. We've had a lot of practices who have opted in for that. So the patient signing one form. And then you get your portal login and it's as easy as that. You have maybe a 45-minute call with our onboarding and activation team and you're off on your way. And we're only one email, text message, or call away if and when you have any questions at all. So one thing, Mary Beth, that we wanted to do exclusively for our Learner and Legacy, this Titan Talk audience here is waive our onboarding fee. So traditionally we have an activation onboarding fee of $1,999 for you all though. And everything that we just believe that you do and this amazing group of professional people, we want everyone to have CoverWell. So let's make that possible in the easiest of fashion. So we also put this together for everybody watching now, for anyone who perhaps is going back and watching this recording. If you don't have the visuals pulled up, there's a QR code here on the screen. And what this is going to do is simply take you to a very simple.
Kandis, we don't have the QR code. See if you can go to the next slide.
Oh, you know what? Let's resume. Can you see it now?
There we
Oh,
go.
there
Yeah,
it is.
perfect.
Beautiful. All right. So this QR code, you're just going to take your cell phones out right now. Everyone who's looking at this, and even if you need to pause it and then pull your car over and or when you're parked, make sure and scan this. Put your information as is very basic and get on the phone with us. If you have questions, I mean, there's going to be three types of people on this call. There's going to be those who have listened to this and feel as though, you know what? I don't feel the need to be protected right away. I feel like I have everything under control and I have absolutely nothing to worry about. Well, for those of you who hopefully this has opened your eyes a little bit with regards to if something hasn't already happened to you, again, going back to what we just discussed, it's just a matter of when and what do I have in place when I find myself there? And do I want to set myself apart in the marketplace? Do I want to be seen as an elite provider with, quite frankly, an industry where we have an overwhelming amount of new practitioners coming in that don't have the level of expertise and experience that you do? This is another way for you to continue to build that credentialing and set yourselves apart. So you may have questions and you want to get on the phone. Fabulous. Scan this. It'll automatically, after you put in a few pieces of information, take you to a scheduling link where you get on a call with our team. And then for those of you who are like, this sounds great, there's nothing to lose. It's a no-brainer because it is. Same thing. You're just going to use the QR code, give us a little bit of information so we know how to get a hold of you. You're going to schedule a time that's most convenient for you. And we're going to, you know, as Pat said, click the button and get everything activated in a very quick and swift manner. Now, we are asking that from the time you're watching this, and I know that this is also going to be posted, but when you call in, and we'll be able to see through this link that it is specific to Learners and Legacy, that's fantastic. We're going to extend the offer to you based upon you clicking on this. So just make sure that you do refer back to having listened to this webinar, and we'll make sure that you're all taken care of so that you get the limited time offer.
That's good. Thank you. Well, what I love about this is it is basically saying in a unregulated medical specialty, there is always the chance for something to happen. And you don't want that something to happen to be in your medical practice. So this really helps protect patients, helps protect from the cost of that happening. And I really hope that this is something that a lot of people take advantage of. So I don't know if we have any questions right now. If we do, you're more than welcome to jump in and ask questions. But what I get really excited about with this is that I hope this is going to become a standard. You look at other medical procedures, nobody ever wants anything to happen, but there is coverage just in case something does. And with the growth of medical aesthetics, with the number of people perhaps looking to practice aesthetic medicine without years of training and understanding of the procedures they're doing and the products they're using, there is a much higher risk that something will happen. So I am very excited that there's a product like CoverWell to help protect patients and the practices that they visit. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and thank you all. And Patrick, Kandis, anything else before I stop the recording?
No, that was excellent. Thank you very much, Mary Beth. We appreciate you bringing us